I'm Mishael Porembski with the 180 Your Life podcast, the podcast that pairs health and wellness with the grief journey. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, I have with me Jennifer Cook of Jennifer Cook Ministries, and she is an amazing women's speaker, women's leader, and she's talking to us about boundaries. We're in our third part of setting boundaries for the Christmas crazy. And whether or not you're celebrating Christmas or a different holiday, when you get family together, sometimes there's some crazy. And so there's a great way to set boundaries in a loving, kind manner, but sometimes you do got to buckle up because not everybody's going to be excited about setting a boundary that really is healthy for you and your family. So we're going to talk about that today and be prepared, be ready.
That's right.
Jennifer, talk to us.
Okay. Well, when you begin to set boundaries, you are not going to have people run out to the store and buy pom-poms and do a cheer for you. It doesn't work that way. We said at the very first podcast, wouldn't it be great if we said life happily ever after? It's wonderful. I set a boundary and everybody's happy. We're going to just, cut the cake and eat the pie and we're all good, but it doesn't work that way. Most of the time you will be met with resistance. So you need to be prepared. You need to be ready for that. So I want to give you a personal example of mine. My grandmother was a chain smoker. My brother-in-law was a chain smoker. So when they came to my house, they smoke at home, they want to smoke here. Well, I had young children, small children, and I didn't want the smell in my house, number one. But secondly, I didn't want the smoke around the children. I mean, you hear all this stuff about secondhand smoke. That's just something that was very important for me and my husband. So brother-in-law, he was fine. He went outside. He didn't mind. We said, can you smoke outside? No problem. My grandmother, on my side of the family, the matriarch, was early 70s. And I want to tell you, I might as well have told her I was going to cut off a limb. You would have thought I had told her she was going to have to eat at the swing set, her Thanksgiving dinner. I said, we call her Gammy. I said, Gammy, I'm just going to need you to smoke outside because the children just don't need to be breathing the smoke,
In the house.
in the house.
Yeah.
And she said, what? I said, well, it just would be better if when you go to smoke, if you'll just, smoke outside on the porch or out front. She said, well, that's just great. I guess I'll just stand outside in the pneumonia hole while all of you are inside in the heat. Totally took me off guard. I wasn't expecting that. I mean, everyone knows secondhand smoke's not good.
Kudos to her on the pneumonia hole. That's
Wasn't
awesome.
that a good one?
I know. Way to go,
you just wait.
Gammy.
She pulled out some other ones, too. I was so shocked, though, because I wasn't asking for anything that I thought that wasn't reasonable, right? I mean,
Right.
people have house rules all the time. It's not like I just came up with this wild one, right?
Right.
And then that wasn't bad enough. She goes, well, I guess I'll go on out there. Of course, my arthritis, it'll just ruin that, and I probably won't be able to even cook or turn a doorknob for a week. But I'll smoke outside if I have to. You'll probably have to open the door, though, to let me back in because my fingers will be stiff. I was shocked.
Wow, you're like taking down your grandma one limb at a time.
I mean, why don't I just throw her off the deck?
I know.
It was awful. And she was mad. And she was offended. And she could not believe at 74 years old, I would send her out into the blizzard, Jack Frost.
Because we have that in Georgia.
Well, she was mad. Every time she took a cigarette out, her lips would tighten up. Well, I'll be outside in the pneumonia. Well, I didn't bring a coat. Who would have thought I'd needed my Alaskan coat? I mean, she had to have a remark every time. Now, the first time, I got to tell you, it really did take me off guard. I wasn't ready. That's why I'm saying you've got to be prepared for the resistance. You've got to be ready to get the comments. And you've got to be ready to come back with it. You've got to be ready to have something to come back with. Now, at first, she wouldn't even let me respond. She'd just go out the door and slam the door. But what I did was I didn't go after her. I didn't go after her because I felt like that was feeding it. So I just let her come back in. And she wouldn't speak right away, so I always would make extra nice. Again, I wasn't willing to break fellowship. I love my grandmother. I want her to be there. But I didn't want the smoke in the house. Right. And not to mention the ashtrays and the children, and it's going to end up on the floor. It just was a big deal. I want you to know she never really did get good about it. Now, see, I would love to tell you that she did, and see, it just got easier. In this case, it didn't. So what I did do is I came up with a plan. So the moment she would pull out the pack of cigarettes, okay, because she's actually going to test me on this. In fact, she did. She would pull it out, and I think she was going to try to light it up there just to see if I'm going to say something. So not only do you need to be prepared for the resistance, you need to be prepared for them not to obey it.
So what'd you do?
I said, oh, you getting ready to smoke? I'll go outside and stand with you.
Nice. Ooh, nice deflect. You're like a samurai.
Just grinning the whole way. Teeth and gums. Cheshire cat.
Yeah.
I said, you getting ready to smoke? I said, I'll go outside with you. I'd love to chat with you. And then I would go outside. And I would, half the time, I wouldn't even take a coat because I was going to buck it up with her, right? Mm-hmm. But it made it better if I went out there with her. But see, she was going to light that cigarette. She was. I'm telling you, if I'm lying, I'm dying. She was going to light that cigarette in my den. So the moment she pulled it out, I called her on it. I said, oh, you getting ready to smoke? I'll go outside with you.
Yep.
So you have to be ready. Otherwise, you're standing there, you're sitting there, you're like, what do I say?
And you just get madder and madder.
She just lit it up. And you will get mad. Because you have set a boundary, you have done your fence, and then they have purposely gone against it. Okay?
There's one thing I want to interject in here too is sometimes in some holidays like Christmas, the big guns, right? Mm-hmm. You really you want so badly to have a good time.
That's right.
Here's a little trick that I do. Sometimes I have my own holiday with my kids so I can have my perfect holiday. Where we might do it the night before or, but if there's other holidays or even a birthday, I am going to have a private birthday time with my kids.
That is so good.
And then I have another one and I'm like, free for all, whatever happens, but I'm okay because I've had my love tank filled. I've made time for, that intimate family time without tension.
That's right.
And then if you're going to be, so you go get your time and then reach out to others, but now your love tank is full.
That's right. But I do think you have to be prepared for it.
You do.
Because it will take you off guard.
Yep.
You're going to get pushback. You're going to get resistance. I think you're going to get the offense where they're kind of coming at you. Because her offensive tactic was to pull out the cigarettes out of her purse and hold them in her hand, almost like she's gonna dare me to say something about it. Or they get defensive. They're walking out the door, slamming it so hard the whole place is shaking. So, but you have to be ready for it, and you don't have to respond to that.
Right.
Not everything has to have a response. But the biggest challenge was I think, knowing that you're going to get the resistance. That was probably the biggest shock. I wish somebody had said, by the way, it's not going to be received like a fairy tale. You're going to get some pushback.
There's a really good book that I've read called The 4 Agreements. I think it's by Manuel Ruiz. And agreement number 1, man, I just camp out on agreement number 1. 95% of it is not about you.
That's right.
It's just not about you. It's the journey or the grid that they see things through. So you don't have to take it personally. You don't have to engage with it.
Right.
You can let that bad behavior be there and follow them like a cloud out the door. And you can still be kind. Say, I'm sorry you're having a difficult time. I would love to, have a, do you want to watch a movie with us? But I understand if you need a break. It's okay.
Well, people without boundaries act like people without boundaries. Mm-hmm. You can't expect bitter people to not be bitter. Unkind people act unkind. Lost people act lost, right?
Right.
You have this same person that was unkind last year is showing up unkind this year. Why are we acting so surprised?
That's right. So you were saying if Uncle Jeb is getting drunk at 7, what do?
We're going to leave at 6.
That's right. You got a plan.
If he's knee walking drunk at 7, we're leaving at 6.
Yeah.
And by the way, Uncle Joe, poor all these uncles, we're beating up
right.
on them.
I know.
We hit an aunt.
Yeah.
Aunt Lily drinks till she can't walk. She's going to drink till she can't walk this year.
If she did it last year, she's going to do it this year.
So you be ready for it. You're ready and you're prepared for it so that, one, you're not shocked. Now, that means you're going to have to stand firm in your boundaries. What did we say our verse was? Joshua 24:15. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. You have to do your but as for me, all right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that you back down on your boundary because you're not supposed to make it if you're going to back down.
Right.
If you're already going to back down, then just don't even make it. If you think it's important enough to make it, then you make the boundary and you stick with it. But you be prepared for the resistance. And I want to tell you, you need to be prepared every single time you see them. I want you to know my boundaries were not respected ever. Now, they followed them. They followed them.
But they didn't respect them.
They didn't respect them, and they still would make comments. Well, I'll be out on the porch. Hopefully it won't snow.
Okay.
You just learn to laugh, and I'd say, "Oh, you're so silly." You know, you just learn to get through it. Well, I've got this terrible cough. I'm not going to be able to go outside. Well, you know what? We're going to go in the garage. I mean, you need to know they're going to battle you. So be prepared for that. Don't let that be a shock, because what happens is it takes you off guard, and then you let your guard down and you let it happen. And it's once you let it happen, you have to start over. Mm-hmm. You have to start over.
So yes, I think that staying with your boundary, even though it's going to be uncomfortable, really helps teach your children.
Yes.
It teaches your children to honor their own boundaries.
That's right.
And, you know, I think, like you said before, it's really important to have the conversation with your family that everybody is on board.
That's right.
And that you've got escape hatches. If you pull the escape cord, then the family bands together and goes, okay, thank you so much for having us. We got to go now.
That's right.
And that you can lead with your presence and your absence.
That's right. And just don't be surprised if the same person shows up acting the same way as last year. Mm-hmm. If they come in cussing like a sailor last year, they're probably coming in cussing like a sailor this year. And I think just having the preparation, I just think helps. Help
exactly.
Me.
And the love.
Yeah.
The love.
Oh, my goodness. Love.
Just pray. I mean, sometimes I'm like, oh, Lord, give me a lot of love.
Yes.
And I remember one family member, because I was struggling after a visit, and he was so wise. And he was like, Michelle, sometimes it's not about you. That's or right. About how people have offended or what they have or haven't done. Sometimes it's just about the kids connecting.
That's right.
And I just thought, well, first of all, don't stop being so smart and so poignant. And that was difficult. But, and I was actually thankful for such wisdom.
Yes.
And it was a good reminder that what can I give as a gift to my family?
That's right.
But then there are some certain things that you can't have like 100 boundaries.
That's right.
Just have a few.
What are the hills you're willing
and
to
the
die
rest
on?
of it, you let it go.
That's right.
Bring a book. Bring a small pet. Hamsters sometimes are really good. We have a bearded dragon. It's incredible how many kids want to come and play with the bearded dragon. It's awesome. And then you just create the fun. Engage where the kids are. Yes. And serve the family, wash dishes, help clean up.
Right.
It's really hard to be mad at somebody who's serving.
That's right.
So, changing that perspective, knowing that you've got those boundaries, loving on the family, and trying to create that home of service and kindness. But if somebody is doing something that's affecting your children in a negative way, in love, you have to be firm about it.
To be firm, you have to stand firm.
Absolutely. All right. So next session, we're going to talk about have a game plan for the resistance. Ooh. And then in our fifth one, we are going to talk about, in our fifth part, boundaries regarding boundaries. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You can learn more about us at 180yourlife.com for our grief empowerment curriculum, 180yourgrief.org for our Widows Empowerment Center, and wonderful Jennifer Cook. You can find her at jennifercookministries.org. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk with you next time. God bless. Bye-bye.